Okay, so
Elu Devarim in shiur.
I'm sure, yeah. It's the first Mishnah, Peah. Okay, so Peah is the first of the Mishnayos that are, I guess, really Zeraim, really the things that have to do with crops and growing and planting, or specifically harvesting. The Rambam explains the reason why Peah comes first is because it's the earliest in the mitzvahs one's going to do with their field. The first thing they're going to do is leave Peah, and after that you'll get the other mitzvahs, which are going to be later mesechtas in this Seder. Peah is also interesting because since Peah is one of the mitzvahs that are land-based, it's relevant only in Eretz Yisrael. Therefore, the Talmud Bavli, which was not composed in Eretz Yisrael, does not go on it. So, sort of a counterbalance to that, the Rash and Rash, two of the earlier Rishonim, wrote Pirushim on the Mishnayos in Zeraim and Taharos because there was no Gemara. So it's a little bit interesting. I mean, the Brachas has the Rambam wrote on all of the Mishnayos, and you have the Rav who wrote his Pirush on all Mishnayos. So you have on all Mishnayos there are some Pirushim from Rishonim, but then the Mesechtas that don't have Gemara, you have another two. You have the Rambam and the Rash who wrote Pirushim. The Rash's Pirush specifically is drawing heavily from, he's essentially abbreviating, but he takes all the relevant parts of Yerushalmi to the actual explanation of the Mishnah and elaborates on them. So it ends up being almost as long as the Yerushalmi, but more topical to the Mishnah as opposed to the Yerushalmi, which, like the Bavli, often gets distracted about whatever is tangentially relevant. And then the Rash is more of a shorter, more concise Pirush of the Mishnah.
Yerushalmi has Peah, but
Yerushalmi has not. Right. All of Zeraim is in the Yerushalmi. In Bavli, only brachas from the Seder of Zeraim is in the Gemara. Okay, so let's begin the first Mishnah. The first Mishnah, or the first half of the first Mishnah, we say every morning. Elu dvarim she'ein lahem shiur. These things have no size, meaning you could do a minute amount, or you could do much more, and you will fulfill the obligation either way. The first one, obviously, is ours, is haPeah. You could give a tiny little bit at the end of your field, and that could be your Peah, or you can give the majority of your field. You can give almost all of your field.
That's
out.
the corner. You put a dafka, put a corn.
Yeah. Bikkurim, the first fruits. Again, it could be literally the first fruit, or it could be much more. You can give many. You can give the majority. The Re'ioin is the obligation on the Shalish Regalim on Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot to be seen in the Beis HaMikdash. So being seen, you could pop in for a few seconds, or you could stay for a long time, and you can come once, or you can come many times. The Gemilus Chasadim and kindness, you could do. Right, there's no minimum amount of kindness you could do. You could do some very, very, very minute, easy, cheap, whichever chesed for somebody, or you could do something that requires a lot of work, time, and effort. But Talmud Torah and learning Torah, you could learn one say Kriya Shema in the morning, you could spend all day learning. Okay, so that we say every morning. Then the second half of the Mishnah is we say every morning the Brisa version. So we'll do the Mishnah first, and then we'll compare it to the Brisa. These things a person eats their fruits in this world, meaning even though in general the reward for mitzvahs is only in the world to come, for these things there's a reward in this world. But the main investment that still is in Olam Haba. What are those? Those are kibbud of aim, honoring one's father and mother, Gemilus Chasadim, and doing kindness for others, making peace between people. The Talmud Torah Kneged Kulam, and learning Torah is equal to all of them. Right, so as we said this morning, though, we had a slightly different list, which is the Brice's version. Right, the way we have it in davening is Elud Dvarim Shano Ochel Periseil Mamazev Vakaran Kemeselam Abbas. It's the same introduction. These are the things that a person eats their Paris in this world, and the main thing remains for the world to come. Ve'eluhein. The list begins the same. Kibbud of aim, honoring one's father and mother, is the same in the Gemilus Chasadim, and kindness. And then this list is longer. Hashkamas Beis HaMedrash Shachas v'Arvis, coming early and staying late in the Beis Medrash. V'achnasas orchim, inviting guests. Bikkur cholim, visiting the sick. V'achnasas kala, helping brides get married. V'lvayis hameis, escorting the dead. V'iyun tefillah, and spending time paying attention to what one is davening. And then it goes back to what we have in our Mishnah. V'ava shalom edan l'chaveru, bringing peace between man and his friend. The Talmud Torah keneged kulam, and learning is equal to all of them. So the Yerushalmi does this.
So it pulls in a brisa.
So this is right. What we say in davening is a brisa. The reason why we say a brisa instead of the end of the Mishnah is because we want to. Well, we said first berachas kohana. We said Yivrecha Hashem Yishmerecha. So that's psukim. Then we said the first half of this Mishnah of Elad Dvarim Shein Lahem Shiur. That's a Mishnah. Then we say a brisa because we want right after we said berachas haTorah to do psukim, mishnayos, and Gemara. So within those first, whatever, it takes about 2 minutes, you get your minimum, right after you say Birchas Kriya Shema, you get a minimum fulfillment of Talmud Torah, of learning psukim, mishnayos, and brises. And the Gemara...
So brisa is like a Gemara?
Brisa is like Gemara, right. So it's interesting, so what you see kind of from this setup, what Rebbe did when he compiled the mishnayos, because he took a brisa that's a bit longer, and he took the middle... and he abbreviated because the Yerushalmi explains because many of these things in the middle, or Yerushalmi explains how all of them go into Gemilus Chasadim. Some of them are obvious, right? Hachnasas kala, bikkur cholim, and hachnasas orchim, right? Those are all obvious examples of doing something that's helpful to somebody else.
Yeah.
So the Yerushalmi says really all of them are just. When Rebbe did the Mishnayos, he wanted to make them more concise. So he said, Gemilus Chasadim is a catch-all phrase, and it's going to cover all these middle things. It's going to cover Hachnasas Orchim, Bikkur Cholim, Hachnasas Kala, Vayas Hameis. Iyun Tefillah is a little bit tricky, right? Why is me paying more attention when I daven helping other people? So the Gemara says since we have a pasuk that says Goimel Nafshe Ish Chasid, it refers to Tefillah as Goimel. So Gemilus Chasadim, we that term we find by Tefillah. So also Gemilus Chasadim would be a legitimate way to refer to Tefillah, and then we cover. Then we would just end up with a shorter list, which was Rebbe's goal, to make everything more concise. This way, people could more easily memorize the Mishnayos. Fine. And then Mishnah Beis, which somewhat contradicts what we said in the first Mishnah. In Peichsin lePeah mishishin, you can't give less for Peah than 1/60th. V'afal pi she'amru ein lePeah shiur. Even though we just said that Peah has no shiur, which meant there's no minimum. So how do you have to give a 60th? So the answer is that the ein lehem shiur, that's on a biblical level from the Torah. But the Rabbanan said no, you have to give something that's considered significant. You have to give at least 1/60th. And still, hakol lefi guidel hasad, everything can depend on how big the field is, lefi reiv haniyim, between how many poor people there are, lefi reiv ha'ina, and at what time it is, how the economy is doing. Meaning, the more need there is, and the more ability you have to give, the greater your obligation would be to leave more. Okay, let's stop here.
Sure.